Hello there. I'm here at the beginning of the episode before we get into this jam packed, awesome discussion of the Eternals to tell you that you can send us a message. It should be a link that you can click in the audio description if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever it is, whatever your pick of the litter is. You can click that link, send us a text message, just include your name. We forget to say it at the beginning of every episode for some reason. We don't bring it up until the end of the episode. So I'm here front and center to let you know that you can send us a text message. Now, I'll stop talking so you can go ahead and get into our awesome discussion, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Words from the Nerds podcast. As you see by the title, by the thumbnail, we have revisited the Eternals. Actually, it was my idea because I have been wanting to revisit this movie for a long time. Me and one of our biggest fights on here was the debate of Black Widow versus the Eternals, yada yada yada. So I wanted to get back in and see if I could just at this point in my life revisit this movie and see if things have changed. And so that's what we're doing today. And if you want to know who else is here to give their thoughts on this movie after a rewatch, we have, as always, Ben and Charlie. Ben, my brother, newlywed man, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm still a little exhausted from a couple days of travel, but I'm glad to be back and be talking about this movie. I was somewhat looking forward to my rewatch. Like, I haven't seen it since theater, so it's been almost 3 years. So,
Yeah,
like,
same.
even with other upcoming movies like Joker 2, I've only seen the first one on my theatrical viewing. So, it's nice to kind of go back like years later and rewatch this, especially since like with all the recent MCU projects and a lot of them being a little underwhelming, I feel like I haven't revisited them as much as I
Mm-hmm.
used to with Marvel movies. So getting a reason to, and then also just to see how interesting this discussion will be, since Charlie's, always been such a defender of this movie, and it's been a topic of conversation before. I remember being just watching you guys fight over it for a while. I don't even remember what podcast episode was that
I think it
discussion
was,
happened.
I want to say it was the Spider-Verse. Oh, actually, I don't know. I actually don't know.
Either.
Because I know Mimish was there, and he was there
Maybe,
for
huh?
Spider-Verse. It definitely wasn't Spider-Verse. I'll
It
look
might have been like
while
Black
you.
Panther or something,
Oh,
but
maybe it was Quantumania.
or Quantumania. Yeah, I don't.
Because I can see us debating mid MCU movies in the
Yeah, bad.
Quantumania
Yeah.
podcast.
Probably. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to talk about it, and I hope that we do this more. Like, honestly, we're coming up on like the 3-year anniversary of like Spider-Man No Way Home and just other movies like that. That's like, revisiting it now that you have either just some time to sit with it, or we have, the current state of Marvel and whatnot, and just we view things in a different lens. So I think this will be a good little chat.
Beautiful, Charles, man, the man in pain right now.
Yeah. For those wondering, I'm here on a very achy stomach today. So
His tummy hut.
I got my ginger ale. I got my ginger ale here, and we're gonna power on through. But because as Ben mentioned, I was such a staunch defender of this movie, so like I feel like I have to be present for the current conversation. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Like Ben mentioned, I think it's a great idea for us to do some rewatches and maybe rehash some thoughts we might have on older projects, and could be something that we continue doing in the future. But let's not think about the future. Let's think about the right now and the fact that we just watched The Eternals. So I want you gentlemen to give me your previous thoughts on the movie first, your 3 years ago thoughts, if you can remember, and then transition into your current thoughts on the film. Let's start with Aiden.
All right. I'm actually pulling up my letterbox right now because I know I did have an MCU ranking that I kind of want to look at. I don't think I ever properly like reviewed this movie on Letterboxd. But I know for sure I had a ranking, so I'll pull that up. But I mean, I'll say that I was pretty low on this. I was low on it, and one of my biggest gripes was them not fleshing out the characters as much as I liked. Um, I have it at 27 out of 33 on Letterbox. Some
Sorry,
movies.
sorry, before you continue, I want to
Uh-huh.
preface 3-year-old movie. I think we're just going to jump in with spoilers. I don't think we're going to dance
Yeah,
around them or anything. So
yeah.
anything you want to say, you can say it.
All right. So some movies, some MCU movies, I have it above. Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 2, Captain Marvel, Love and Thunder. I I am I do not like Love and Thunder. And even if we rewatch it, I don't think that will change. I hate that movie. Incredible Hulk, Thor, movies I have it under. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Iron Man 3, Black Widow, Quantumania, Ant-Man, The Marvels, Multiverse of Madness, and then I get into like the mid to high tier stuff. But I gotta say this movie's goddamn good, man. This movie is good.
Oh, this is the update. Hold on, just to clarify, this is the updated
This is
thought now,
updated.
correct?
This is updated. I don't think Black Widow touches this at all. Charlie, you were right.
Oh my
Charlie, you were
goodness.
right.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think I think some of the gripes I still had with it, and Charlie, we've talked about this on the Secret Invasion pod. I even made a YouTube video about this, tier listing the Marvel universe. I do still think this movie would have been way better as like a 6-episode series. And watching the movie, I was even able to like kind of piece it out. And again, I mentioned this on the Secret Invasion episode as well. 3 episodes of the past and where they're at now, 3 episodes with the current events and towards the end of the movie, or you could even do 2 episodes in the past, 2 episodes fleshing out these characters, showing like Gilgamesh and Athena's dynamic, showing Kingo and his rise to stardom in Bollywood, just fleshing out these characters a lot more, and then maybe the last 2 episodes can be the fighting and then the ending of it. I do still have that same belief. I don't think I can go higher than a 4 out of 5 stars, so about like in the 88%, 8 out of 10, 80% range. But I did swallow a lot of my words watching this back. I thought there was a lot of compelling stuff. The opening scene, my God, the opening freaking scene. I think this is one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful looking Marvel movie. It is absolutely gorgeous. And when you look at what we've gotten the past couple of years, it's crazy that this movie existed in the same universe and got shit talked to all hell, me being one of them, comparing to what we've seen in shows like She-Hulk. And I'm talking pure like um, cinematography, just like the way it's shot, the colors and everything, compared to stuff we've gotten recently, such as Thor: Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, and some of these recent projects that just you see them all over. You see the conversation all over Twitter anytime, like a Star Wars. When I remember when the Ahsoka trailer dropped, and everyone was like, "Where is the creativity? Where is the color? Like, give me something. This is so plain." Watching this movie, I was blown away. I don't think it deserves, like I said, a 47% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it's one of the worst Marvel movies. It's up there for me. It's up there. I'm glad I revisited it because over the years, I'm gonna keep referring to it. Like me and Charlie have talked about on episodes or before episodes. I've always wanted to revisit this one, which is why it was one of the first movies I talked about revisiting whenever we got the pod started back up. There was just a lot that I liked. There was a lot that I didn't like still, such as Sprite, again, such as the characters not being fleshed out as much as I would like them to. Um, and at times they are like a little too apologetic about humans, which I'm like, like I don't know. Like y'all are these godlike beings. Don't like put humans on a pedestal, which is why I appreciate characters like Druig and Fastos in this movie. But that's the thing. There are those characters to combat those point of views. And even like Kingo at the end, you have Icarus who believes in Arashim. You have Kingo that believes in Arashim. they both go about it in completely different ways. Icarus wants to kill them. Kingo's like, look, I still believe in Arshan, but I'm not going to fight y'all over it. Like, y'all are my family. And so there's a lot of good that can come out of having to cast this stack, but obviously there's a lot of bad too. So I still stand by that this would have been amazing as like a Disney Plus series. But I will go back on my word a little bit in terms of this being one of the worst Marvel movies ever, because there is a lot to like about it. And I think one of my only other gripes was like just the deviance and everything. I mean, they explained it pretty well. Like eventually getting to Crow, he devours Gilgamesh and then he gains consciousness, and that's how we end up getting Crow. But there is some just like kind of hand wavy, lazy writing in there, but I don't think a lot of that is Chloe Zhao. I'm getting ahead of myself, I know, but I think a lot of that is just Marvel standing over her. So I really would love to see an Eternals movie where she has full creative control. So I don't necessarily put that on her. I put that more on, it's probably Marvel being like, make sure you tie this, and make sure this gets explained, or make sure you bring Crow in because he's important to blah 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 blah. So a lot of my issues come from just 2.5 hours isn't long enough for a movie like this, and I still stand by that. I felt like that for the past couple of years, and I still feel like that afterwards. A lot of hand wavy stuff, a lot of just like kind of give it a pass and don't pay too much attention to this, move along. There is also a lot of good that I seem to have forgotten about over the past 3 years.
I can't tell you how happy you just made me, man. I cannot tell you. Not in the sense that like, I'm finally right about Black. Like, I don't care about that. I'm just happy that this is being appreciated.
It's so different. It's so different, and I think that's what I learned to love about it a second time around. It's just how, I don't know. I love a lot of the internal stories, like everything with Fastos and how he just hated humankind because of what they did with his powers, and Druig, how he was. I think there's even a moment where he's talking to Ajak, and he's like, he says something along the lines of like, how hard it is to stand back when I have this power. Like, you could never understand that, and I think that's why I love those characters so much. They were absolute standouts to me. I fell in love with their stories and the path that they went on throughout the movie. Still think the Icarus thing is, man. I mean, like,
sure,
yeah. I again, it's just a lot of the hand wave stuff, but yeah.
I think I'm gonna go next because we'll leave a little bit of more suspense for what Benjamin thinks. I think he's been pretty good about hiding his feelings here. So, if it's not apparent already, beforehand, I very, very much appreciated this movie. 3 years ago watching it, I made an 11-part TikTok series talking about each and every character in the movie that was a large part of the film, and talked about my thoughts on them and how they affected the film, and how great I thought their writing was, or bad in certain instances. And going into this watch, I wanted to be even more strict, if that makes sense, because I wanted to challenge my own thoughts to see if like I genuinely felt that way. Excuse me. So I was asking so many questions to myself because it had been 3 years. So I was asking why it doesn't, because it didn't make sense to me why they can't interfere with human conflicts unless it involves deviance, but then Fastos is allowed to give them technology. Like, how does that make any sense? That got answered. I was asking questions like them why are the deviants that specific deviant towards the beginning of the film, why is it attacking Cersei and the other Eternals when its main objective, as far as we know up to that point, is that they just love to kill humans? Like that's what, so there's humans around everywhere. Why are they trying to kill the Eternals instead? Because that one had already absorbed Ajak, and that one had the thoughts of Ajak, and so it was trying to absorb another one, and just like it did Gilgamesh, as Aiden mentioned. So all these questions that I kept asking kept getting answered, and not all of them. There are problems with this film. I do think there's issues with the non-linear storytelling. The jumping between current day and past day is a little jarring for sure. Not to say that I don't appreciate the content within those flashbacks, because that's one of the scenes that Aiden was talking about with Druig. Man, when I watched that scene yesterday of him telling Ajak, like, do you know what that's like? Like, to know that I have the ability to stop this, but like I just can't. Dude, that gave me chills all over again. And I said out loud to my girlfriend, like, how do people not like this movie? Like, I don't understand. Like, and you can make all the Twitter arguments all the live long day, because I think, what was it, like a month ago now, the scene of Makari fucking up Icarus was going around Twitter, and everybody was like, dude, I can't believe people hated on this movie. And then there's the people like, oh, notice how they only show one scene from the movie, but there's more than one scene. But if I show you this scene, you're gonna be like, I don't care about that, I don't care about Druig, you know. It's like but watching this, even on this second time, I was especially more, because I mentioned on our last episode of Alien, like, films for me, a lot of the time, what gets the draw for me is good characters. And I think that they are in abundance in this movie. Some better than others, obviously. Aiden mentioned Sprite. I do think hers is a little, whatever she has going on is a little just like tacked on, like the whole she's in love with Icarus thing happens just randomly in a random conversation, like a little over halfway through the movie, about Peter Pan conversation kind of thing. And it's like, all right, that's strange. But then at the same time, there's moments like where she talks about, like, I'm confused why she joins with Icarus after Icarus tries to kill multiple different members of their family. But I'm like, I get that she loves him, but like, even then that's a bit much. But then she gives that spiel to Cersei about how living with these humans and like being looking like a kid has just, like, it's made her angry at humans, if anything. So she wants this emergence to go through, because humans have made her want to have a family, be able to grow old and have kids and whatnot. And then she's granted that at the end. So, and obviously I love the Fastos stuff too, man. Oh my God. That was the first time around. I like watching what happens in Hiroshima and just having that dude. Oh my gosh, man. And then I feel like it's even better now after watching something like Oppenheimer, where like they went even further into like the sort of discussion on like nuclear power and nuclear weapons and just how dangerous that is in any hands. And so I don't know, man, there's just so many great things. I think the flaws are with certain characters as well, like Ajak, huge missed opportunity. And I think that's where somewhere I would agree with you, Aiden, where this would work better in a series, because we could explore each character a bit longer and a bit more. I think at the same time, like, when I say that about Ajak, I do think we have enough about her in the sense of understanding the story. I think that we, to a certain extent, because there's actually something I want to say here in a second. Just in the reason she chooses Cersei, because she to be her successor. Because we come to realize in these flashbacks that she's coming to like humanity as well, and she sees that Cersei is probably the other Eternal that most loves humanity. But I will say the flaw comes with, I can't remember exactly. Maybe one of you guys do. I think Icarus said that she told him about the emergence in Babylon right before they all split up. Is that when it was?
Yeah.
And was that around the same time that she had that conversation with him about how she feels that his loyalty to Erisham is strong, like she can feel it in him, or was that an earlier flashback? Because if it's the same one, that's super strange to me. Why, if you're saying that he's so faithful in Erisham, why then would you, if you're having any sort of doubt about the why are you entrusting him with that information? You know?
I thought that was on the cabin or the ranch that she's on. The final, I think it's the final flashback where Icarus goes to visit her, and she's
Mhm.
like, Thanos like blipped, and that took away the life on the universe, which like delayed the emergence. I can't say exactly when it was, but I feel like that's a good spot to put it there. So if it's not there and it is in Babylon, then that is kind of
Well, he knew about the emergence before going to that house because he did. I
yeah.
remember he said, "Okay, all right." Because I remember he said that he came because he had a feeling that she was having doubts, which is also a weird. Like, what made you think that? Like, I don't think that was that was addressed. It was just kind of like a.
I wonder if
throwaway
it's just
thing.
because his whole plan was to kill her in the first place, which I feel like is the obvious answer. But that's me just trying to blindly defend the movie.
Why would it be a weird time to tell him about the emergence after like saying that he's loyal? Because don't those things like go together? Like he's loyal, so knowing about the emergence, he's more on board with it.
Well, if it happens at that time in Babylon right before they split up, my thinking is she's telling them to split up and go live lives because she's already like not as intrinsically tied to this mission. We know that she's done this for millions of years, according to Erisham. So I feel like you should have like a sort of code and ideology of like the proper way to go about things. I don't know if it's just because she's realizing that she can't control them necessarily anymore, but it just seems like a weird move to have them all split up if you're not already having doubts about the emergence on this planet. To me, I could be making that up. That could be like a headcanon thing to me. But I guess it could, if that's just a me thing, then I guess it's okay in the sense that like she's fine with him knowing because at that time she is also still 100% on board with the emergence, and she's just telling somebody else who is super loyal to the emergence cause. But also it's still weird because there's a reason that Erisham picks one person to be able to talk to him and to be able to know about this situation. I feel like if she's so fiercely loyal to Erisham and his grand design, then I don't think that should be your place to tell any other Eternal that does not have the ball of wisdom, whatever the hell that is. But yeah, I mean, the plot itself, in terms of the deviants, as Aiden mentioned, I do think having such a buildup of the deviants throughout the entire film, only to have them sort of be an afterthought in the finale, is certainly an interesting choice. It's also a little hypocritical, the logic and thinking of Crow. He mentions to Icarus as soon as he killed Gilgamesh, he says that you guys you're not saviors, you're murderers. How are you guys any different? I don't understand. You guys, your entire existence, you were meant to protect the planets, like Erisham mentioned, but you decided to go off on your own and kill the inhabitants of every planet you're on. So how does that make you any better than the Eternals? And why? Like, I get that you're upset because the Eternals killed your people, but don't act like you're some higher being and you're not a murderer just because you murder what you deem to be lower life. I don't know. That seemed a little ham-fisted, if I'm using that correctly. But yeah, I'm yapping. I want to hear Ben's thoughts. You all know I love this movie, so
I will say real quick, I love that you said about you made the comparison about with the deviants and the Eternals, because there's one line that I absolutely love, and I think Cersei is telling Druig. She says they got Gilgamesh. They have a conscience now.
yeah,
That makes them dangerous. And Druig is like, oh, that makes them just like us.
Yeah, it makes
And
them
I was
us.
like, oh, like I don't know. I just can't get over that Fastos and Druig um, train of thought and their belief compared to everyone else. And it also makes, I don't know, I just fucking love it, man. It just makes sense, you know. It just makes sense with Cersei and Dane and her reasoning for wanting to save this, but then also Fastos and Druig and you know their upbringings and why
Yeah.
they felt the way they did for so long. It's such a cool thing to play around with that I wish we had more time with it. Anyways,
Actually, one more thing also before Ben goes. Sorry, Ben. I just want to mention, like, the actual stakes of the plot are, so, I think, so masterfully done, and just the push and pull of it is so fantastic, I think, because you can genuinely understand both sides. The way it's presented, the emergence is going to happen, it's going to destroy the planet, but letting the emergence happen will allow life for billions and billions and billions of other creatures and other beings and aliens, et cetera, suns, planets, universes, galaxies. And so that dilemma of like is it's I guess when you get down to the root of it, it's just the classic like I think the first movie that I can remember in the MCU that really tackled it was like Winter Soldier. Is one life worth hundreds and thousands of other lives. When you get down to the root of it, that's what it is, but on a grander scale this time. And I just think that weighing it like that makes it so much more understandable when you look at like certain characters that went one way and other characters that went the other way. And that's why I can respect Aiden mentioned it, Kingo's decision so much. Like, he believes in it. He thinks it's the right thing to do, but he's not going to fight his family for it. Like, I'm not going to, I don't believe in this enough to hurt you guys. And that's why I'm just going to walk away from this, which I think I think is great writing. I think that's great writing for his character, but I also think it was just like for an
it's just a
excuse
way
to
to
get
get
him out of the movie,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
strange, but whatever.
He was
think
comedic relief, and that was it. They were
Yeah.
like, "We got you for this amount of time. This is what you're gonna do, and you can get out of here."
Yeah.
Which is crazy because
All
he
right,
got
Benji.
so ripped just to not fight
I
at
know,
all.
bro. That's crazy. Oh, sorry. Also, Aiden mentioned this, dude. Oh my God, the shots and cinematography in this film, bro. You can't, dude. One of the best in the MCU, man. I can't tell you how many times. Like, there are moments of like, and I know there's more than just color grading when it comes to proper cinematography and editing and whatnot. There are moments of like grayness and dull looking colors, but there are also moments of like brightness and really just awe inspiring stuff. And so hands down, just fantastic. I think, like, especially for a phase 4 movie, when phase 4 as a whole gets shit on so much. Talk to me, bro. Talk to me.
Talk to us, Ben. Talk
To us, Ben.
I don't know how much I've expressed my thoughts on this movie like in years prior when we've talked about it. I've obviously been a bystander of some of your guys' debates over it, but I don't know that I've ever really like expressed my thoughts. Maybe just like generally, but I don't know. We haven't really talked about it specifically at any point. So this might come as a surprise, but like I always liked the movie. I was never a big hater on the film. The original score that I gave it was a 7 out of 10, 3.5 stars on my letterbox. I had it ranked on my MCU list higher than Aiden did from the placement that he revealed. And I remember just on my first viewing, um, I liked a lot of elements of it. I liked a lot of there's a lot of great parts and great moments, but I remember feeling like uncertain of how it all fit together and like if that was actually like compelling and if I was kind of on board with the finished product of how everything worked together. And I remember feeling mixed on some of the like tonal stuff, because this was definitely like a place in the MCU where the whole like balance of seriousness and humor was, everyone was kind of starting to question that more. But I mean, people were starting to question a lot of things when it comes to Marvel movies around that time period. So I remember like feeling some of those things. And so yeah, upon my rewatch, I was kind of like, I wasn't looking for anything extra. I was more like remembering those little bits and pieces from my original watch 3 years ago, and kind of like, giving it a fair shot. Like I'm re-examining it with a fresh lens, and just seeing how I'm gonna feel about it now. And interestingly enough, I think I feel like the exact same that I did 3 years
Yeah.
ago.
Okay, I thought you were saying exact same as us. I
No,
was
no,
like,
no.
oh,
I feel the same as I did 3 years ago,
tease me there.
which is still not a bad thing. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still I like the movie. And I still I mean, I can give praise and echo what you guys have been saying. Like the cinematography is amazing, amazing character moments. There's just some great things within this film, and a lot of it that it handles really well. But when it comes down to it, I think like the couple of main things that stick out for why I'm not like in love with the movie, or why I would have take some issues with it, is I feel like, I mean, Aiden said this. I think it would work better as a series.
Mhm.
It would fix some of the issues with like the time jumping, the amount of characters that we're dealing with, introducing, we're supposed to care about, and just like how grand the storyline is. I mean, that's mainly because there's a lot of characters over a large span of time. Um, but it does feel like if we could have fleshed all of this out more, that like the moments that worked would have worked even better, and then they would have had more time to polish some of those other things. Um, and so I just feel like there's a lot of great moments, but then like in the end, I'm still just, it's a very mixed bag for me. And so I'm still kind of at that point, and I don't know that that will change. Like rewatching it didn't I got everything explained that I need to, like story-wise and everything like that. It's more just like how it's all put together. That's where I really take my issue with it. Um I did want to touch on a couple of things that you guys brought up that I just jotted down. So like when it comes to the stakes of the movie, Charlie, you kind of bringing up the push and pull, and just like it feeling real with how they decided to set that up and kind of built almost like the tension of it and messed with that throughout the movie. I think from a conceptual standpoint, I really like the stakes in this movie, because like all of our characters are throughout the film dealing with this internal struggle with, learning the reality of their situation that they've been put in, that they've been created for, and like learning that they've already done this, many times in the past. And so just like them going through that conflict that they've gone through, who even knows how many times that they've had to deal with that. um I like it from that standpoint of like how it affects our characters mentally and overcoming that, because in the years and years that they have been Eternals, and they've successfully allowed emergences on different planets, they've never gotten to the point of, being able to reject that and to be able to overcome that, and in this case to save humanity. And this is the first time that we're seeing that. And so I like seeing like kind of that perspective, just in principle. I think the the thing about the stakes though is that like practically they don't matter that much, because like, yeah, there's the internal conflict that they're dealing with, but we also know that like Earth isn't going to be destroyed when we're watching this movie. Like we know that it's going to be saved. And to me that raises like some interesting questions of, why is it this time during this emergence that they suddenly are able to find the willpower and the ability to stop it. Because, clearly in previous emergences, at some point they have to learn about the emergence and learn about their purpose as Eternals, and then their memory gets wiped. Like that cycle repeats itself. So why is it here that they're able to actually overcome that? And questions like that, and maybe there are answers that we'll discuss, but just little things that, like, I like a lot of the concepts, but then, like, in practicality, I feel like there are still more questions than answers that I have with it. But I was trying to think of anything else specifically that I wanted to touch on, because I feel like I had something, but then I forgot. Yeah, I think that's all I'll say for now. We'll just get into the discussion and talk about more specific things. But yeah, weirdly enough, I feel the exact same. I would say the only difference that I feel is that, like, after I watched the movie and, like, the weeks and months following, this became one of those movies that I was like, I just kind of forgot about it, and it wasn't really memorable to me. And so now, like, upon revisiting it and rewatching it, I think I'll look back more fondly, because I've seen it a second time. I'm not just gonna, like, forget this in the next couple of weeks, and, like, I don't think I'll view it in the same light in that specific regard. But other than that, yeah, I pretty much feel the same. But I don't think that's not a bad thing, because I was never low on it. Like, I never hated this movie. Um, I think it's a good movie. Um, I I don't know. I'm a big fan of a lot of Marvel movies, so for me, it would be like, it's good, but it's not a great Marvel film in my opinion. Even though there are, like, so many elements that are really good about it. So I'll stop there. We'll dive into more specific topics.
Um. Oh. Oh. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My mic light is like glitching out, so I wasn't sure. Um. So the one thing I guess I'll say to uh you asked, like, why this time. I think there's a multiple different factors that lead into it. Because you can assume that this is the first time Ajax hasn't been the leader. Uh, for the emergence happening, for one. So Cersei maybe has gotten it in the past. Obviously, we don't know, and she doesn't know either. Her memories were erased. Uh, we can assume that Cersei has gotten as involved with the other populations of these other planets just as much as she had before. But also, I would say that hopefully, Ajax didn't tell any of the team members about the emergence until it was, like, already happening. And then by that time, there's nothing that they can, like, even how, no matter how much they love this planet, there's nothing they can really do to stop it, because they've also never, like, put their heads together. Well, we don't actually know that, and maybe they have because their memories were erased. And I do think that's probably an issue as well. Is, like, there's so many, like, oh, hey, well, there's no way to know because, like, their memories were erased, and so maybe they did. I also want to say another question I had that didn't get answered. So Thena suffers from mad weary, which is just all of her memories that got erased trying to flood back in. Why does that make her want to kill the other Eternals? Like, why is she so violent towards them? That specifically, because I assume the memories that she's remembering, because they keep calling back to it, are of the planets dying and that we're all gonna die. So why does that make you want to kill your fellow Eternals? I don't understand that, but
I
uh,
thought I thought that the explanation for that was that since she was remembering that, part of, like, her craziness was seeing them as evil, and so trying to stop them from, like, causing that again. I thought there was some specific line, I don't remember when, about, like, I forget what it was, But it was like later in the film when they were kind of explaining how, like, what was actually happening to her with the memories that she was regaining. Because then, like, everybody was starting to realize, like, oh, we've done this many times before. We've caused all of these things. And so I thought that they connected that to her memories and her seeing that, like, what they were doing was wrong. And, like, combining that with her craziness causes, I don't know. I thought they made the connection, but I don't remember the specific line.
I don't recall either. But I guess if that's the case too, then if she's like remembering that they were evil, so then maybe in past times they did fight to try to stop the emergence, or at least some of them. Thena maybe did, and maybe others did with her, and so they just were never successful. And to talk about why they were successful this time, uh, a different leader this time around, and different I was going to say stakes, but that's not the right word. Different, what's the word? Environment, I guess, in the sense that with Cersei being the leader and newly discovering her ability to, whatever you call her power, to sentient beings, understanding that, and then understanding, which actually they didn't know that they were going to be connected to the celestial. And so maybe just in the past they've never tried to do this sort of thing, especially when being connected to the celestial. And then this time they just happened to be trying this thing, and then the celestial just gave them that extra boost of energy that they needed to get it done. And maybe I think there's multiple factors also, in the sense that, like, Icarus falling in love with Cersei, because Icarus would have been able to stop it. He would have been able to stop Cersei if he didn't stop himself before he did. So, like, maybe in past times Icarus never fell in love with her, and that was one of the things he was worried about. This, with losing his memory, is like not being with her, and so I don't know. I think there's lots of factors. I do think they're like hand wavy kind of factors into, like, you just got to kind of like accept it. And I don't think that's great. But yeah, that's, I guess, my 2 cents on what would cause them to be able to complete it this time as opposed to other times in the past.
Gotcha.
If I can interject, I do think that's also a fuck up on Arisham's part, because he brings Cersei up and he's like, all right, I'm gonna spill the beans. Here's everything that happens. Here's y'all's true mission. And then Cersei goes right back down there and is like, yo, this is like kind of fucked up. We cannot let this happen. Which, again, is right back to the point of a new leader. Ajax was probably able to accept that up until, I guess, now, which that could be explained by maybe, I don't know why, maybe again, this is the issue I had earlier, just being so apologetic for humans. And I guess this planet, Ajax, just became so attached to them, even though we only ever see her really on the ranch for most of the entire movie. Um, her being so in love with humanity and just kind of being like, I don't know if I can carry this mission out anymore. So then whenever Arishem tells Cersei, she's like, oh, I didn't know this has been going on. I didn't know we were manufactured. Like, and now everyone on Earth is just gonna have to pay for it. So it can go right back to Arishem just being sloppy with it. But again, that's not really his fault, because Icarus went and killed the only person that had that knowledge and that was cool with doing that stuff. But again, I see his motive. She starts to backpedal, and he's like, no, we're doing this.
We also don't know, just with how many times they've done this, we don't know if, like, in previous worlds or in previous situations, if, like, Cersei had been already involved and, like, been told before.
Yeah, yeah.
Which actually is something that I was gonna bring up for a question that Charlie asked earlier about Ajax telling Icarus about the emergence, and like the reasoning for that and whatnot, if Arishem was, trusting mainly Ajax, and Ajax was leading the Eternals to allow this to happen. My thought with that was kind of the same thing, as like, what if in previous worlds that, like, I mean, you never know like how different the characters are upon each emergence, but if in previous worlds that they've been on together before allowing an emergence to happen, you don't know if that dynamic had already been set up. If Ajax and Icarus had already previously worked together, and so she knew that if she like built her relationship properly with him, and brought him in and his loyalty and whatnot, that she could entrust that with him, and he would continue to have the same level of loyalty. So I would say that same thing is like, over the millions of years that they've been a part of this, who's to say that Cersei hadn't already been told this before, and that you know this just happened to be the time with the connection to humans and whatnot that allowed all of them, well, most of them, to be able to kind of like transcend past that, and not just be lured in and follow the directions of Arishem, but this was the specific time that they were able to overcome that. So that's what I would say is like, we don't know all of the different situations and how involved these characters have been in the past. So that might be part of it. But I mean, even so, like, that's interesting just with the context of the ending with Arishem talking to Cersei about, I will come back for judgment, basically, to see if this was worth it. So I think it's one of those things where after millions of years of them being so loyal and carrying out their mission, that like this was just the one time that they, rebelled and did something they weren't supposed to. But that I just think there's so much history there of them successfully doing it that it would make sense that like Cersei and Icarus would be on board with that.
Yeah, that could just even be a lapse in judgment on Ajax's part, which I know you touched on a bit, just being like, maybe in old times, Icarus and Cersei just fell in line, and maybe this is the one time where things just got out of control, and they just maybe spending time with humans, as advanced as they were, did kind of alter something in Cersei, Sprite, all the characters, to make them do what they did. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, it's just a thing of just too short of a runtime, which is crazy because the movie's almost 2 hours and 40 minutes long. But just back to the series talk, would have been cool to explore how that looked in past emergence situations. It's just all up to head canon, I guess.
You're muted. I can't.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Broken microphone. I'm on the edge of my seat.
I'll fill in Charlie's thoughts. Yeah, guys, Aiden's the best. No, we can't hear you. Technical difficulties. Charlie will be right back. I'm itching to know his thoughts. I'm just.
I am. I don't even want to change the topic because then he's just gonna come back and want to add on something to that. No, but I agree. The whole this should have been a series is so like, it's just so true. I think whether it's like the backstory of the previous emergences and their relationship to Arishem and whatnot, like all of that could have been just so much more well explored and just like made everything within the movie so much better. Like if we could just have more time with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is something else that and there's a line that touches on this a little bit, but it still doesn't quite make sense to me, because their entire objective, they come to learn, was just to grow the population of the planet. So if that's the case, why are we letting all these wars happen that decrease the population? And there's the line that they acknowledge it with, in saying that, well, war leads to technological advancement, and technological advancement leads to population growth. But if Fastos can just supply them with technological advancement, and they can prevent wars and stuff with Druig, all they'd have to do is do all that stuff, and then all humans got to do is eat and fornicate, and that's just going to grow the population like crazy. I don't understand that. Like, that just seems like that would have made it happen quicker.
I mean,
you know?
they have the line of, we're not supposed to get involved in human endeavors unless it has to do with deviance. Like,
Sure.
that is their specific instruction. And so, like, from the Eternal side of things, you can boil it down to they're just following what they're told from Arishem, and they're trusting that. But from Arishem's side of things, I think the reasoning is, which is also touched on, is allowing humanity to naturally evolve and come up with those technological advancements is what allows the power to grow in order for the emergence to happen. They talk about kind of like, the birth of the celestial and how things need to be in place in order for that to happen properly. And so I like the specifics on it, who knows, but like my defense of it, I guess, would be that like Arishem knows, this is what we need to do in order for an emergence to properly happen. And so interfering with the natural flow, you don't get the same result. I mean, they don't like explicitly say that, but they have like just a few things that like line up to make that make sense. And at least in my opinion, like I buy it enough, I don't need anything further to be on board with it.
Okay. Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Okay.
It can boil down to something as simple as they just need an explanation as to where they've been the entire MCU, which it started to feel like that. I mean, especially whenever Kit Harington's character was like, "Oh, so where were y'all during Thanos?" And so why haven't y'all done this? Just basically telling the audience, "Hey, this is why they weren't in Endgame. This is why they weren't in Infinity War." But I do think they do as good of a job as they can at explaining why they couldn't. And I like what Charlie said earlier about how you have all these answers, and then you have all these questions that get answered, or all these like problems with the movie. Because I jotted down in my notes, I was like, that's kind of super lazy writing that they can't involve themselves with humanity, even though they're literally just put on Earth to birth a celestial. And then later on, Fastos is like, war leads to advancements in technology, and that advancement, feeds the celestial a lot more. So I was like, okay, I appreciate that they're at least not letting anything go by as much as they can again.
Yeah.
I have a question that I think is interesting to consider. What would you guys have thought if this movie was like essentially the same movie, but it wasn't on Earth and it was on a different planet? And so we see like the Eternals, we see that they have a conflict and whatnot. We see an emergence happen, and then the movie like ends with them now being stationed on Earth. And then it's kind of like open-ended and we don't know where it's going to go from there. But it's like it's the emergence before this emergence, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that could be cool, but I think it goes back to what you were saying. Like, Earth's not going to get destroyed. Like, there's not. I guess if maybe like I would buy it more if like this movie happened, and then we if it happened like that and they end up on Earth, and then we were like closer to Secret Wars, where like a battle world is going to form and like incursions are going to happen, kind of thing, then I would buy it more. And I think that there's those stakes would be crazy. but I do think that that's a cool idea for a film, though. I think that would have been a neat little thing to do, but
Well,
instead we got this peak.
just building on top of that, it does make me really interested as to why they leave the movie off. Why they leave the movie off on essentially taking Eternals to Off-World, and because I didn't remember Arishem taking them away. I always I again been 3 years and I just completely forgot about the movie. I had always thought that he brought them forward, was like, I'll come back for judgment, and then put them back. I was under the impression that that's how things had played out, and I never cared to go back and fact check myself. But then I saw he took them away, and the whole post credit scene was, oh, we know where they're at, and we have to save them. And so I was like, dang, like obviously we're talking about this September 3rd, 2024. I don't know. We don't know if there will be an Eternals 2. We don't know what the plan is with the Eternals because now they're gone and we're essentially not gonna talk about them at all until post Secret Wars because nothing's been confirmed. And so I'm kind of like, oh man, like why'd you take them away from us? Like I would have kind of liked to explore something, or at least like I don't know, at least leave the people that were on Earth, Kingo, Cersei, and Phastos. At least leave them on Earth, and so they can fight with the Avengers or do whatever. But the fact that they're now in space, and I guess with this post-credit scene again, who knows if we're ever going to get closure on it. Now they are in danger, and it's up to Harry Styles, a CGI elf, and a couple other Eternals to save them. So that kind of, I was like, I got that post-credit scene, and I was like, oh man.
I think it's kind of a larger MCU point, which we've discussed kind of the like grander picture of the MCU quite a bit, but they came out with like so many projects around that time, kind of starting in 2021 and continuing just for like the last couple of years. They were coming out with so many different TV shows and so many different movies, all of which had either a continuation or a setup into something coming next. And I think, like Kevin Feige more directly said, that like they were focusing more on quality and not quantity, and things were getting delayed and pushed back and whatnot. And so like when you have just such a large quantity of projects that are setting things up, and then all of a sudden you want to kind of dial back and focus in on like a core storyline, there are going to be things that just get cut. And so in this case, we might not get the payoff to either of the post-credit scenes or even just the end of the movie for years. I mean, who knows? Like, I don't necessarily see these characters showing up even in like the Avengers films. I mean, it's like possible, but it would feel weird for that to be the next part of their story, would be for them to just like come in for Secret Wars or something like that. But I mean, we could say that about a lot of films, that like there's loose threads, there's things set up. I mean, even right before Eternals, Shang-Chi post-credit scene, like what was that about? And like, where are we going with that storyline as well? Because I would love to see that character return. I would love to see those things fleshed out. But I think like this was in that unfortunate era of just like so much stuff that I don't know how much of it is going to be able to be filtered through and actually be continued, and how much of it is just going to be pushed to the side and we're going to forget about it and maybe we'll come back to it later. But it seems like this is like it's on the chopping block, unfortunately.
Yeah. Made me sad seeing that Eternals will return thing at the end, because
I
like,
know, man.
I really want them to hold true to that, but
especially coming back around to this movie. Now I'm like, God damn it. Like all the times where I was like, I could care less about a second project, or that's just behind me. Now I'm like, man, like I'd at least like to see some of them come back, or
I'm so happy Aiden changed his mind.
Be fleshed out. Yeah,
I
I was dead wrong.
Another thing that and there's no clear cut answer to this, I don't think, but Cersei, right before she's taken by Arishem, she's telling Dane, like, I can't pretend to be a human anymore. So what does that mean, though? Like, what are you gonna do? You gonna go join the Avengers? Like, I don't quite know what that means for you. What does that look like for you? Not pretending to be a human. Like, do you just live in exile? Like, I don't understand. And that's a thing that I don't think that will ever get touched on again, even if they do come back. You know, like, I don't think that doesn't seem like a storyline that could progress. I
kind of took that as like her saying she was going to embrace the superhero side of her and help humanity, and kind of like the change of heart of, you know, in a way, them stopping the emergence kind of is getting involved in human conflict because they're not supposed to stop that. But like that's what's supposed to happen. And so they've already stepped beyond what their purpose was and what their instructions were. And so I don't know. I saw that as like, okay, we've gotten to this point. So like, you know, let's just embrace who we are.
While on the topic of characters, this makes me the one thing that I could not stop thinking about, even though he was barely on the screen, was Dane Whitman's character and how bad I want to see him back in here. Like his charisma was just off the charts, and I hate that he's just like essentially third wheeling most of the movie. Like it starts with like Icarus and Cersei, and then it ends with him being like, well, I found out a lot about my family history. And then she's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, what the fuck is this going on right here? It's just like, damn, someone give him something. Like, I like this character. I want to know more. Like, give me more of him. But every single scene he's in, he's just getting cucked, basically. And I'm like, I don't know. It just made me want him in future projects so badly, especially with like the Blade cameo in the second post-credit scene.
Yeah,
it's like
one
I would like to
line
think
of Mahershala's Blade, bro.
I'd like to think maybe, he'd be the next Blade movie. Is that even coming out? Like, what's even going on with that? And so, again, the character of Dane Whitman and his bad luck of third wheeling and getting screwed over just happens in real life also, because this man cannot catch a break. But I just kept sitting there being like, I love this character. Like, he's just so cool, and I just want more of him. And I don't know if I'll ever get more of him.
You gotta watch Game of Thrones, Aiden.
Yeah, we watched the first couple of episodes, but like we were also like, me and my fiance were watching Breaking Bad. I had just started watching One Piece, and we only watched Game of Thrones when we were over at her sister's house with her husband Brandon. When we were at Brandon's house, we sat down and watched the first couple of episodes. And I even told my fiance, I was like, man, I really want to just sit down and watch this show, like let this be our show. And so I really do want to revisit it. I was telling Ben the other day, someone stopped me at work and they were like, has anyone ever told you look like, what's his name, Jon Snow? And I was like, no, but I'll freaking take that every day of the week, dude. I've not been able to stop talking about that.
Damn straight. And I mean, and because both him and Icarus are in the show, so
yeah, which is really cool. I love Icarus. I mean, I love Richard Madden in this, man. He was awesome.
I thought you were about to say you love dick riding something.
In a way, I did say it, Richard.
I mean, there's a chance that they tie in the post-credit scene back into Blade. It is still supposed to be coming out next year. I think in like November. I mean,
that's not happening.
But like with all of the production trouble, with all of the delay and whatnot, like if it somehow contained a continuation of this, I would be shocked. I'm just saying.
One can dream.
Yeah. Well, I think I've filled up all my thoughts, truthfully, on the I can only gush about it so much, you know. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to specifically bring up?
I will just say one thing. That line which again, this is just more of, I feel like it was just Marvel telling Chloe Zhao like what to put in and what not to, or what to put in, what to make sure she put in. That line with Sprite being like, "Oh, well, now that Steve Rogers is gone, who do you think will lead the Avengers?" Oh God, I cringed so hard. I like jumped. I was like,
Yeah,
uh,
some of the line delivery in the movie was pretty bad too. Like, also the ADR, I caught one time when Fastos was talking, but he wasn't actually talking, like his mouth wasn't moving.
I hate that.
And I was like, dude, that was the most Madam Web shit. I can't believe that got through, bro. Like, that was crazy.
Somebody, just random side note, the person directly in front of me on the plane yesterday watched Madam Web.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Why
saw
would
it
you
as
subject yourself to that?
it was one of like the in-flight options, and I saw that it was an option. And so then like the person in front of me, I see like the in association with Marvel like logo going through, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're watching, like maybe like a Spider-Man movie or something. And then I see that it's Madam Web.
oh gosh.
They watched the
The
whole
whole
thing.
thing? Damn.
Oh, dude, I'd be pissed. One, you're already on a plane, and so you just want to distract yourself by watching, and then check this out, a Marvel Spider-Man movie, and then it's that. Oh no.
Man.
Yeah. Just because you brought up the ADR, that kind of reminded me. Another random technical thing is in recent years, Marvel has done their like IMAX enhanced on Disney Plus, where some of their films, if there were scenes that were in IMAX, then you can watch it that way.
Mhm.
And for a lot of movies, at least they're like previous movies, I think it worked really well. Like I remember like when I first heard about this, I went back and revisited like Captain America Civil War and Avengers Endgame, which those movies are like very clear cut. Like as soon as the airport battle's about to happen, it switches to full screen IMAX and it stays that way like the rest of the movie, and like the final battle in Avengers Endgame and whatnot. And so one of the other movies that I watched just within this last week was I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 actually. And so that also had the IMAX enhanced as well. And so what I noticed, it was an interesting contrast between the two, because Guardians felt very intentional about, extended scenes of it being IMAX and then not. And this movie, like noticeably, was cutting back and forth
Yeah.
so much between
Yeah.
IMAX and not. Like even within a scene, it would be like some scenes were IMAX, some were not. And like I actually remember noticing that in the theater as well, because I watched it in IMAX, of course, and I remember that being one of the things that sorry, Charlie.
He had to add the of course.
Yeah, I mean, I did, of course, but I remember that in the theater, that it just like it slightly bugged me, because you just like in your brain you just automatically like notice it, similar to like like a sound thing. If something is off from a technical standpoint like that, it's noticeable, and I don't know, that just like bugs me a little bit. Like I'd rather them just not have it and then have it for like extended sequences of whatever, which I mean the movie's beautiful, so like use it, but then there are other moments where it's like, why are we cutting back and forth like every 2 seconds?
It was pretty jarring. It was something that I was like, I might bring this up if we're like towards the end, but I'll wait and see if anyone else does. That way I can jump in and say, but yeah, I noticed it was like it was just flipping. Like somebody would be talking and it'd be here, and then like a deviant comes in and they start fighting, and then it's right back to the IMAX. And I was like, ooh. Charlie, I just gotta say one thing. Once you go max, you never go back.
Don't ever say that to me ever again.
I'm mad that Oppenheimer was your first IMAX, because I think I remember you even walked out there and you were like,
Yeah, it was
wasn't
like
that crazy? But
yeah,
it's
it
like,
wasn't.
oh man, like Dune 2. If
Yep.
you would have seen that in IMAX, I feel like it would have changed your mind.
I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering my Dune 2 multiple watches in IMAX, the entire movie was IMAX. Like
Oh,
it never cut away from
it's
being
beautiful.
full screen.
Honestly, I think you guys are just spoiled, bro. You guys are just spoiled.
You should just move to Missouri.
Move to Missouri, yo, I'm
We
telling you.
talked about this.
Hey, bro. Might have to. Might just have to happen.
My
Cause
closest IMAX is 10 minutes away.
oh damn, isn't that nice? Mine's fucking 3 hours. So
Cool. My
Golly
deepest
gee
condolences.
well. Any other closing thoughts on this spectacular movie?
I will tell you where I ended up putting it as I revisit. Don't like take. I mean, this is just like, don't take this as, cold hard facts. As I revisit more of these movies, I will shuffle this list. But it went from my 27th spot to my 17th spot. I'll just give you the 3 movies I have above and underneath it. So above it is, which, okay, you all gotta forgive me for these Spider-Man takes because like it's been a long time. I need to revisit
Oh no.
if I
I'm
have
sorry, bro.
revisited these
Far From Home is
movies,
bad, bro. It's all right.
just
Oh
just
no.
I will revisit these movies and reevaluate my thoughts. The 3 above it are Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Spider-Man Homecoming. The 3 below it, The First Avenger, Spider-Man Far From Home, Age of Ultron, and Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness will change. I think it will for sure change on a rewatch. I don't know for better or for worse, but yeah, it's at my 17th spot currently.
Hey, that sounds right to me, man.
I say
That sounds right
all,
to me. Except for
but
maybe Doctor Strange above. I don't know about that.
the first Doctor Strange, yeah. Like I
Yeah.
said, it'll change with the revisit for most of these movies, but I mean, Eternals is the most recent movie I've ever. I know Homecoming over Far From Home. I'm not sure how I feel about that off the bat. That's why I said
I
like,
agree. I
'cause
agree wholeheartedly.
I do remember walking out of the theater like being obsessed with Far From Home, and that is a movie I want to revisit because I do think it is severely underrated.
It's character assassination, the movie. That's what it is. So,
Yeah, but that Mysterio scene, is some of the best Marvel has ever done,
true.
bro.
Not fair. And did you upload a video about Far From Home? I can't remember. On your YouTube?
I thought he said he was going to.
Yeah, you were going to. Is that what it
I
was?
honestly have so much written out for that, but it just like my
Drop
problem.
that, bro. Drop it. I'd love to rebuttal. I'd love to rebuttal.
My problem is like some of my concepts for videos were like so grand that I felt like I needed to flesh them out properly. And so then I write out way too much. It's never focused enough. And then I never did anything with it. I could probably go back and revise it and turn it into like a 15, 20-minute video and still get the point across enough. But yeah, I'll look into it.
Sounds like now's the time, man. You're married now. No excuses.
No
Yeah, no.
excuses.
Now she's locked in, so
Yeah, bro.
no matter what your takes are. you
Look,
can't
they already
leave
moved
yet.
the bed in this room, bro. The bed's gone. And he has to have the door closed now.
There we go. Those were all my thoughts. So Charlie got a new video. Cubston dropped a new video. Go run
Yes. Thank you. Yes, if any of you are interested in gaming content, go check it out. 100%ing. I probably do it to a degree that's detrimental to my health, but that's okay. That's fine. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Hit that subscribe. I want to say it loud because I want the tingly to happen on the subscribe button, you know? Hit the like button, hit the notification bell. We'd really appreciate it because we are dropping episodes back to back. Coming up soon, we are going to do weekly episodes of both. Almost said WandaVision. Agatha All Along. Wait, no, is it Agatha All Along? Is that what the show's called?
Yeah.
Oh,
Or is
really?
it Agatha? Or is it Agatha?
It's Agatha all along.
Is it? I don't know.
Pretty
They've had like 4 different
Well,
titles.
dude, I
Because
thought
they-
it is all along.
It
I thought it was
updated
so
to Agatha
fucking-
all along because then they played it off like she was the reason for all of the fake titles. It was Agatha all along.
Gotcha. Okay. Of Agatha All Along and the Penguin, which apparently I think the news came out this week that the Batman will not be in it. That's a
Which
bunch
is
of
fine.
bullshit. No, it's a
It's
bunch of
fine.
bullshit, Aiden.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
what it is.
watching.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
I won't be here for those.
There was also a rumor that they were making a Batman a video game in the Batman universe, which I would have loved. But then James Gunn had to come out and be like, "That's absolutely not happening."
He said while it sounds like a good idea, it's not happening. It sounds like he was on board with it.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen though,
Hmm.
because he very much wants to separate himself from that universe. Which, whatever,
I don't
I
know
get
why
it.
you would embrace it.
Yeah,
Can you imagine David Cornsweat's Superman with Robert Pattinson's Batman? Oh,
quick little
Oh.
actually side thing, because a lot of people have been bitching on Twitter lately, and I just don't understand it, because there's rumor that Josh Brolin just got cast as Hal Jordan, right? And people are bitching about the entire Justice League is old, but I genuinely struggle to remember any other old actor that has been cast so far, because David Cornsweet, not old, not old. Mr. Terrific, not old. Supergirl, not old. Hawk Girl, not old. What are we talking about? Who else is old? And if anything, that just means to me, Hal being old, finally we get Jon Stewart as the main Green Lantern. I'm tired of Hal. Get Hal's ass out of here. I want John. My gosh.
Weren't there plans to introduce a Jon Stewart Green Lantern in? Maybe it wasn't Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder's stuff?
Was it Zack
no, I
Snyder's
think
stuff?
I think so. I
I think I remember hearing that. Yeah.
I don't think they were gonna do Hal in Zack Snyder's. I don't think so.
I think the only other older character that they've kind of alluded to would have been, I guess, Batman, technically, because of the story approach that they were going to do.
Oh yeah,
I forget.
Damien is gonna
Yeah. So I mean, like technically, you could say that he's gonna, like, the Batman's gonna be more older and experienced, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's just Twitter. Twitter being Twitter.
Twitter being Twitter. Damn right, Benji. Damn
X
right.
being X.
The only thing I've agreed
What'd you just say
on today.
Say that again, Abe.
And with that, we will see you in the next one. Let's see. Alien
Any
episode.
comments to read? Any nice notes from the
No
audio?
Dude, Charlie
No.
just had us jump in. We didn't even say that at the beginning.
No.
Yeah, we are supposed to say him at the beginning. I didn't even think about that. Because that's where the most attention is. So my bad, chitty chat.
Maybe
I said chitty chat, not shitty chat.
I'll go back and I'll throw something in the beginning. But Alien Romulus video doing really good. 137 views on YouTube. Thank you for that. Keep blowing it up.
Yeah, we
Keep blowing
appreciate
it up.
big preach on the disgusting movie.
Send some fan mail.
On the discussion of the bad movie. Mid movie.
You
Not
don't
bad.
have to reiterate it. You don't have to keep repeating yourself.
Mid, not bad. I was just correcting myself because I said bad and disgusting, but I said mid in the episode. I want to clarify, it's just mid.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad.
In a way, it is disgusting as well.
Yeah, that's also why I want to clarify myself, because like it can be considered disgusting, just like not in a bad way, just like in an adjective way.
And with that, we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Adios.
Sayonara.